Welcome to the DMF. I'm your host, Justin Yance, and today is part 4 of my interview with Evan Crooke. He is a director, a writer, a producer, a distributor. Enjoy.
This is why I go back to what I was saying earlier. Staging to me is so important. And I didn't realize this wasn't when I was in my 20s. Thought I had, this shot, this close up, that, over the shoulder shot, this, that, from above, whatever I needed to convey the language of cinema. But staging and really understanding what, we were talking about this last week. If I have two characters in a room, and one of them is supposed to be the heavy and the power, and the other one, let's suppose I got two actors, two characters, and one of them is, let's suppose this guy is a hood, like a not a mob guy, but sort of a gangster, right? He's a gangster.
Yeah.
In a room, in an apartment overlooking, let's say, Chicago City, in this penthouse, and he's got another guy coming in, and he's going to give the keys to the place to someone. It makes a big difference if the guy comes into the room, they're looking at each other directly, and they sit down at a table and they're looking at each other. That's a very balanced scene that, in my book, most of the time is boring. It would be far more interesting if he keeps his back to the guy coming in the room.
Yeah.
If he's looking into a mirror, now let's suppose, or not, forget the mirror. He's looking into the window.
He's overlooking a balcony.
Let's suppose he's looking out the window out to the skyline, and it's at night. So he's got the reflection, and he can see the guy coming behind him. And he's talking to him in the reflection, but never once does he turn to look at him. He only talks to him through the reflection. And then at the end of the scene, he hands him the keys. He puts his hand out, almost like chop, chop, come get the keys. And the guy in the door has to come up and grab the keys, turn away. And never once does he turn to look at him until he's gone. And once he leaves the room, he turns and looks. That's power, right? That's staging. That's all staging. Now, if I had thought about it from a cinematography way, the camera, if I thought about camera first, staging next, it wouldn't work. But if I thought about characters, the character's objective and what the characters want and where I want power to be positioned, then that tells me where I need to place my cameras. So now, knowing that I have this objective from the guy who's looking out the window and the guy who's coming in who works for the guy.
You want to show the power dynamic.
Right, exactly.
Then you'll put the cameras around that.
Right.
Come in with that idea of, here he is, he's looking out the window.
Right.
And then you have this guy coming in. Now, all the camera angles are going to come from making sure that dynamic is shown.
Right.
As opposed to, like you said, like, let's just shoot it and be like, oh, we could just shoot it, a wide shot. They're both profile or whatever, coming in and,
or
over the shoulder.
Or I could shoot it with the two of them sitting down at a coffee table, looking at each other. Right. And delivering the same lines. And then here's the keys.
Which you could still do. I mean, you'd have to, like, I don't know, do like the camera like looking up all the time, and then you'd need to have the camera looking down on him.
Yeah,
so
but what scene sounds more interesting, right?
No, I like the first one.
Right. And the reason the first one is more interesting is because it's more chaos. Our job as creators in film or television or whatever medium we're in, for the most part, human beings are fascinated by chaos.
Yeah, we talked about that on.
Right. So even in a love story or a family film, it's about chaos. Look at Home Alone. Why did Home Alone do so well as a story? Well, of course, it's well written, and B, it was well executed, but it's about chaos. If the kid, if the family had come back and not much had happened, boring.
Yeah.
So it's all about
like chaos. Nobody wants to watch a movie about like two couples and nothing goes wrong and they just live happily ever after. We want to see the process to get them to that point, and then they can do that.
Right. So yes, correct. And it's a process, of going through chaos. it is one character wants something from another character. The moment that you give that to the other character, the scene goes flat. The moment that you don't give that to the other character, the more tension exists, right? So, and this is not much different than in real life, right? So what I've really learned later on is, even though I started in photography and love and appreciate cinema and visualizations and camera angles and so forth, and that language, what I really have learned is that staging and working with actors and really understanding the characters and really understanding the characters' objectives, really understanding the nucleus of your story. Your nucleus is, what does your character want? What does the character can't want, and what can the character not get? What will the character try to achieve that they cannot get? The more they cannot get what they want, the more fascinated our audience is, the more the audience is glued to the screen. And so the moment they get what they want, we're done. We're done. Boring. Done. It's over. Sometimes you have to give the other character what they want in order to move on. That's fine. But you have to recognize that's over. Okay. So
like look at There Will Be Blood. All the stuff he has to do to get that pipeline. And then we kind of see at the end what it cost him. But it's all that, if we just started with the pipeline.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis.
One of the best actors of the century. Yeah.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
named one of the best actors of the world. And, and you look at Last of the Mohicans and other things.
Yeah.
I mean, just,
Michael Mann.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's actually Michael Mann's probably second best film. His first best film, I think, still to this day. I mean, Last of the Mohicans was better, but the other film that he did that was very good was Thief.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say Heat.
Oh, no. Heat was horrible. Heat was terrible. Heat was a joke. Heat was just an extension of Thief, in my opinion. I think Heat was terrible. I know Wes Studi. Wes Studi worked for me on The Killing Jar.
I know.
He did a great job. I didn't enjoy Heat. I think it was contrived. I think it was predictable.
Yeah.
Boring. It was nothing. It was too many hands in the cookie jar from the studios. It was obvious. There was too many things that had changed in the rewrites, in my opinion, what I could tell. I don't, but it was the same thing. Why not just watch Thief? Thief was a great movie.
Yeah. Basically, Thief is starting to come. People are starting to appreciate Thief more now.
I've been talking about Thief for 30 years, and 20 years, 30 years, and I've been saying it's one of the best films ever made. And James Caan was phenomenal in it. So no, that was really his best raw work. By the time he got to Last Mohicans, that was exceptional. He had a great material to work. But Thief
it's just the scope and the feel of Last of the Mohicans. It just feels so different from any of the other period pieces that have come before it in some ways.
Yeah, it was a great piece.
We don't want them to get what they want. We want to see how they're going to get them and try like hell. An interesting character would be, more on the humorous side. But if you look at a character like, Eric Cartman, he's going to do all these. What's interesting about him is how he will see a simple situation and manipulate it to get what he wants, and we'll see, I mean, that's the best way to look at it.
It's so going back to, I mean, staging is, before staging, really understanding the objective of each character and really understanding the psychology of each character, and then boiling down their objectives. And then from that, connecting to staging, and then from staging, connecting to visualization, and really going through step by step, each building block, each process. And what happens now today, I think filmmakers are less patient than ever. And the same for actors, and they'll rush a scene, want to be quickly congratulated and told how brilliant they are, instead of focusing about No, just the feeling, feeling the journey, feeling the process.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. Like let's take the journey and then we'll worry about, congratulating each other.
Exactly. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So let's transition now into the Killing Jar, your first project.
Okay.
How did this project come about?
That's a good question. The Killing Jar came about because I was at CalArts graduate school. Sandy McKendrick basically passed away towards the end of my first semester. And I made a really hard choice the first time ever to give up on the process of academics, I guess, school, I decided to drop out. I decided to focus on finding material, basically. So I was on a scavenging hunt, if you will, a massive search looking at scripts. And I had reached out to agents and lawyers and managers. And I figured I really wasn't going to get much out of graduate school. At least I felt it, that I wasn't going to get much out of graduate school anymore. The best thing to do was just go make a movie, basically.
Yeah.
And I felt somewhat confident in my writing capability, but not confident enough. And so I really need a writer or a script or both, obviously. And at one point, I even ran an ad in the Hollywood Reporter, a large full-page ad that I took out. I got thousands and thousands of scripts.
Yeah, not good ones though.
A lot of bad ones, yeah. And I probably read close to 1,300 scripts in 1 year. And I narrowed it down to 2 or 3. And one of them was called Silhouette. And Silhouette was originally at Warner Brothers in development. It had Roman Polanski attached to produce. To direct. Roman Polanski was going to direct, and Richard Donner, who did the Lethal Weapon movies, was attached to produce. At that time, from what I recall, it was earmarked for around $60 to $65 million. Okay, so keep in mind that was about 23, 24 years ago, whatever it is. And that was a lot of money. Still today. And it was going to be a Warner Brothers studio movie that they would shoot in France. Obviously, Polanski couldn't come here to the US for obvious reasons. And then the rights to that went into what's called turnaround, meaning it went back to the writer. And the writer's manager had contacted me, or agent, and pitched me this story called Silhouette about these killings that happened on this wine vineyard, and that the son of the wine vineyard comes back to take over the family winery and gets accused of murder and all this kind of stuff. And I found that to be intriguing, and I asked them to send me the script, and I read it and decided to take that on. Then I spent the next 2 years or so doing rewrites, lots of rewrites. And then at the same time, while that was going on, I had made friends with a distributor that basically gave me a buyer's badge. One of the most useful lessons that I ever learned as a young filmmaker is I got a buyer's badge to go into meetings at the markets, AFM, American Film Market, the Cannes Film Festival and markets, MIP TV, MIP Junior, MIPCOM, whatever, all these different markets that exist. I was able to go to several of these markets, and I was able to help out and go to the booth and to the market booths, and I was able to actually sit in off of the sidelines, the meetings, and had a badge and so on. And then I started listening carefully to what each country was paying. I was noticing the small details, and that's another thing that's important in the process. We forgot to mention that why a process is important is because the process teaches you the details. The details in life, no matter how small, are always the most important. They are vital. They are absolutely vital. And everyone looks at the big strokes in life because that's where the big results are. But it's the small details that make up where things really happen. Steve Jobs wouldn't be Steve Jobs if it wasn't for the small details that got him to where he needed to go, and Apple wouldn't be where it is today. everybody only cares about the end result because that's the easiest, quickest way to think about it. But if you really, really wanted to learn, you would dive into the details. And so one of the details that I learned that was very helpful was I started realizing what Germany was paying. I was realizing what France was paying. I realized that, oh, these are certain countries that don't want this type of material, but want other types of material. Things that maybe China and Singapore and Thailand and Japan that might take, but other countries like China and so on may have sensory issues where they have to really, you can't have too much sex, you can't have this, you can have that, and other places like the Middle East and so on. So I really started to educate myself and understand the landscape of the financials of the end result of where a movie is going to be. And I taught that to myself in my early 20s, way before I directed The Killing Jar, way before it became that. So by the time I got the script, and that was in the process as I was looking for material, and as I got the script, I knew that this had potential in the foreign market. I felt confident that it would do fairly well in the US market. I still wanted more. We did some rewrites with the writer. And towards the end, I knew it had problems. I knew it still, story-wise, it still had some problems, but I was confident that it would make money. And I was very confident and sure of it because we were financing it ourselves. So I was really, really wanting to be very careful that I was trying to protect the investment and that I had done all of my due diligence that I could do to safeguard the investment and felt confident that I could. Somewhere along in that process, we also decided to change the name from Silhouette to The Killing Jar. We went back and rewrote in The Killing Jar, the actual jar that you use to catch insects. That wasn't in the original draft. And we liked the title, The Killing Jar. It had more edge to it than Silhouette. And then also while I was doing that, I started, I had done a lot of storyboards on the Killing Jar and working with storyboard artists, but I really wanted to stage it out and work with staging and directing, and ended up working with actors in workshops. Some of those actors ended up actually being in the movie.
Wait, you said you workshop it. Where would you workshop it?
So there were a couple of wonderful professors, if you will, or teachers rather, mentors. And some of these people had classes on teaching acting, and some people had classes on teaching directors on how to communicate with actors, because it's a language. If we're doing a scene and I say to you, I want you to be sad. Well, that's not really good directing. But if I go, or I want you to be scared, or whatever emotion I want to try to get out of you. But if I go to the other actor and I bring the other actor out of the room and I say, okay, forget the lines. I want you to surprise Justin when you go in, and I want you to terrify him with something that he's not expecting. And I'd say, you got it. You understand. You got something in your head right now to surprise him and surprise me. And by the way, surprise yourself. And that actor says, fine. And we come back in and I shoot over that actor's shoulder and I'm looking right at you. Well, guess what? I've just used psychology. I surprised you and I get a real reaction off your face and you're completely terrified based on what he's just told you, right? This other character, because you didn't expect it. So things like that, all these little tools in which to essentially manipulate, if you will, in a creative way, organic emotion, and find ways in which to build creative staging so that you keep creating chaos, and out of chaos, you keep creating scenes that are interesting. 99% of all the directors and scenes that I've seen and actors where they work with other actors or actors that are directing other actors, when they start off, the scenes are boring and they're flat. But as they mature, as those talent mature, as those people start to mature and they start to really get a handle on their craft, they start to realize, if I just tweak a little bit of this and I add a little bit of that, then the scene comes alive and it really gets interesting. Humans want to gravitate to what's easy. I had a scene. I was working, and right now I'm working with actors and practicing stuff on stuff that I'm developing. And I had two actors that did a scene, two young actors, kids. Kids are great to work with because they don't think too much about their self-awareness as much as adults. They generally just jump right in. But I asked these two kids, I said, so how was that? I let them run the scene first. And they said, yeah, that was great. I said, did you feel comfortable? Yeah. Okay. And where did you feel the most comfortable? Oh, I feel the most comfortable right here. And I'd say, okay, guess what? Now I want you all the way on the other side of the room where you're not comfortable. And I want you, the other person, on another side of the room. And now I want you guys, now, do you feel uncomfortable? Yes, I feel uncomfortable. Good. That's how we're going to run the scene. So it's a matter of, I think, allowing other artists to feel empowered while allowing them to creatively contribute, at the same time guiding them and morphing them with a vision of yours, but at the same time be willing to let that vision change and adapt to become something completely new. And you have to be willing to give that control up. And that's a very terrifying experience. Very scary to give up control to other artists. But if you respect the artists that you've brought in, you respect the actors for their talent, or you respect the writer, or you respect the DP, and so on, it is truly a collaborative process. You do have to relinquish a pretty good amount of control in order to get control.
Basically. And hopefully you cast well and you've got everything there. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, so that everything can lend itself.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
okay, that about does it for part 4 of my interview with Evan Crooke. I want to thank him personally for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can find me at Justin Yachts. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider checking out the YouTube channel. And I will see you next time on the DMF.